Today I visit with Renaissance man Rich Monson. I'm your host Rick Jey, and this is Spotlight on the Arts. Rich, that was great. I'm glad to have you on the show, the opportunity to do a spotlight on you today. And thanks for playing that lead in. You're quite a musician.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here, and I'm not sure how much of a musician I am, but I did pick up a harmonica when I was in high school, and I had this little one here that, but it doesn't have sharps and flats on it. And I was frustrated, so I finally got me an old C harmonica that had sharps and flats, which is a little button on the side.
Yes.
And so
hit the flat, I heard. Yes.
it makes a much nicer sound.
Yeah.
And the harmonica and an old C melody saxophone got me through high school.
Oh, I see.
I was able to survive high school by playing on these things. And then when I got to going to college, I dropped it all together, and then I picked it up after I retired. And now I play with a little band of people about my age.
Oh, I see.
Down at Clinton, to the senior center.
Well, my grandfather and father both played the harmonica.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned that, it really brought back some memories, you know. So you sound good.
I do it more as music therapy.
Oh, I see.
It always makes me feel better.
Yes, music is therapeutic. Yeah. Let's go ahead and look at your background a little bit. Can you share with us how you became inspired to be an artist?
Well, I think I started out that way. We lived on a farm out in Kansas, and I'm kind of a bashful person.
I see.
You wouldn't know that by being around me, but I am.
Yeah.
And so I think a bashful person takes in visual stuff
Right.
more. And so I was a good looker at things and stored up visual information, and then I was able to express it.
Oh,
So
you
I think I
watched
started out pretty much.
You watched tadpoles and
Yeah.
had a riding horse. I understand from our discussions.
That,
I guess you're more or less like reserved.
yeah.
Not bashful now, just reserved, and know when to listen and know when to speak, I guess.
Well, this horse we had was named Pete because he was given to us by a fellow down there. He was a blind pinto pony.
Oh, I
And
see.
you'd turn him loose and he'd run circles. And he knew when we were trying to throw a halter on him, he'd get his head up in the air.
Yes.
But he was a great horse, and that's where I learned about horses. When you're riding an old skinny horse, you learn a lot about the horse, especially you're not riding it with the saddle. We didn't have a saddle.
Oh, I see.
We
Yes,
just had a
bareback,
bridle. And so Pete was my first introduction to a horse. And by storing up some of the material about Pete, I was able to draw this horse and rider for a book that I illustrated without any horse and rider to look at.
Oh, I
so
see.
It's all just drawing on memory and
Yes.
recollection.
Oh.
So this is one of my favorite pictures that I did in the book.
Right.
And I noticed now I've got the hooves a little small.
Oh, I see.
The other thing, when we were young, we lived on this farm, and this was right at the end of the Depression.
Oh, I
And
see.
the only paper we had was scrap paper and Big Chief notebook
Notebooks,
paper,
yes.
tablet paper, with lines in it. And so when we got a piece of paper that had no lines, this was like heaven to us.
Yes, I
We'd get on the floor and we'd draw on that. We'd draw World War II pictures.
Uh-huh.
We always had the U.S. winning, of course,
Yes.
dropping the bombs and stuff. But that's where I first kind of got into the visual art stuff.
I see. Now, what year would that have been?
This would have been,
not to age you, but
well, I was
we all get there.
Born in '36, and it was about 10
Oh, so
years.
that was
about
the end
45.
of the Depression.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Beginning and end.
Well, my dad was working for 50 cents a day, so
Yes, yes.
he felt the Depression. We got it incidentally.
I remember Dad at $10 a week at the local
Yeah.
feed store, grocery, what have you. Excellent. Well, you also you had to feel for animals, I understand, like chickens, and you was able to draw different chickens.
Of
I think we have
a woman with a chicken
one-
hook.
Yeah, with the woman catching the chicken.
Yeah.
We'll put that on the timeline.
That was all from memory too, or
Yes.
imagination.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, great.
How you'd do it if you were reaching down to hook a chicken.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Nice to have that paper. Well, the spiritual part of your art, you said you'd like to talk about that. That was developed, I understand, more from a trust.
Yeah. We lived on a farm. We didn't get to church very often. But we had this prayer. And I was thinking about this prayer we had to say every night. Now I lay me down to sleep and pray the Lord.
Yes.
So if I should die before. And I thought, that's a horrible prayer for a kid, 4 years old, 5 years old. Lord, maybe I'll die tonight.
Yes,
Between now and
that'd be on your mind, wouldn't it?
and so I thought that ought to be struck out of the prayer. But so we knew about God, and we feared God, and we behaved ourselves
Yes.
within reason.
Yes,
You know.
within natural boy reasoning.
That's right. That's right. And so.
And you had siblings?
Oh, I had an older brother,
Oh,
and then later on had a younger brother. But that gets me into a theory on how come I'm bashful.
oh, I see.
The older brother, see, you're always after love.
Yes.
So that's the whole business.
Recognition.
How do I
love.
get love? And you can have somebody come in and video you,
Yes.
and you get love that way. But the idea with the drawing was that I was better than my brother. We would have contests, and I knew I was better than my brother.
See.
But he was better outgoing. The first child, the parents fasten on language, and they're so happy when the first child says 2-3 words.
Yes.
And that's that kid's track to love.
Yes.
And my older brother could sell anything. He was a merchant, and so that avenue was taken.
Oh, I see.
See, I couldn't best him. He was 2 years older.
Yeah, I see.
He was better talker than I was.
Uh-huh.
So, and this is my theory. The second child goes into music or art or something like that,
to pick up.
because the first child, he's got the thing cornered
Yes,
on
yes.
outgoing
Right.
stuff and on language. So that's a theory we could talk about a long time. But anyway, that I think being around things that are alive, watching a cow bloat and trying to save it and stuff like that.
Yes.
That gets you on the spiritual side.
Yes.
So-
Well, we might speculate whether it's external in authority, good or bad for
yeah.
society at that.
Yeah, well, we trusted God. We knew that there were things you're supposed to do and things you weren't supposed to do. And nowadays you wonder if we have an external authority.
Uh-huh.
And you wonder if we suffer because we don't accept an outside authority, no matter what it is. A lot of people just don't feel like they are obligated to anybody or anything.
Just individually.
And we've already gone through a phase where that was deadly.
Well, when did you first recognize art's value?
Oh, I was pretty young. We had a landlord that we were on leased property, and we'd go down, and the landlord had an organ, and I figured out some chords, bam, boom, boom, pop, and she thought that was pretty special. And we had a reunion. My dad's side of the family had a reunion, and I was encouraged to play my chords, and I played some. I think it was a C chord. That seemed like it. And I got praise for that. And then at school, I did. So it comes back how you get your love, you know.
Your validation.
And that my corner of the love pie. And so that's how it paid off. Plus, just being able to make something look right. I remember when I first discovered how you could take a truck that's two-dimensional and make it look three-dimensional by making a box out of the back of it. And I remember that. And my brother didn't know how to do that.
Oh, I see. Well, it's basically, you learned it did pay off, and it's great that our culture values the arts, I understand, you feel. And then there's that simple personal satisfaction. I guess love, validation.
Validation. That's, we look for love, we look for validation of what we have here that is proper and useful. And that's a lifelong search.
Right. And making things right, perhaps the greatest personal value, I guess, would be how they look right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I
acceptable.
I do portraits once in a while. And you can tell if you missed or if you got it right.
Oh, I guess. I did a portrait for a young man, and I finished it, and he looked at it, he said, "Oh my gosh, Rick, I don't know." He says, "I look like Michael Jackson, and my wife looks like Sally Jesse Raphael." So I knew it wasn't right. I can identify with that.
That can happen.
Well, is the value all personal, or is there any value beyond personal?
No, I got a job sacking groceries for Dillon's out in Kansas, and I stayed there until they found something else for me to do. They sent me I had a good boss. When he found out I was really interested in art, he got me on to the art department. And so there, I learned to cut stencil. We printed. I had bread for sale, 29 cents or whatever.
Posters, making posters.
Yeah, posters. And that's where I got my first experience making money from art. I had an earlier experience. A Democratic Party affiliate wanted something drawn, and I was pretty young when that happened, and I knew there would be money involved, so I did this. I had a flag in the background, and I won't say what party it was, but I did the job, and then they didn't pay me. But I knew it was worth something.
Yes, and that led to scholarships, I understand.
Yeah.
At the KCI, Kansas City Art Institute. And you went to Oklahoma on a scholarship?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
University of Oklahoma. Got my master's down there. And then when I got I'll show you a couple things. When I got to teaching at UCM, I was able to use my experience cutting stencil. Although at that point in time, the stencils were photographic. And one of my favorite posters is this one of the
Missouri State University joins it.
And I'm proud because it's only 2 times through the press.
Oh, I see.
It's 2 colors, and I made the colors there.
You gained the skill on that.
And also, and part of this was to just learn the process, because I had to teach it. And sometimes you have to run real fast to stay just a little ahead of the students.
Yes.
So this little book that I printed called Tall Timber Tale about flying trees.
Oh, I see.
Was mostly because I thought it was a fun story, how trees can, in the wintertime, if you look at a tree in the wintertime, all you see is the tree. You don't see the root system.
Right.
So you could play like in your mind
Yes.
that sucker just flew in here
Oh, I see.
and landed. And the gist of the book is that if you set aside a premise,
Yes.
you can make up a story that's believable. And so that's what this book's about. And there's a tree that had a rough landing.
Oh, I see. So that.
But this is all
Nice illustration to kind of
it's all screen printed.
all screen printed. Oh, I see. Excellent.
And I want to run this in real quick.
Sure.
This is one of my favorite posters that I designed. It's got the old Pantheon in it. It's got this cop that was in a tire, an ad in a newspaper for tires.
I see.
And what it illustrates, and I'm in here, and Reagan is in there, and Carter in the mosaic back there.
Oh, I see.
Because at this point I was talking about hard sell and soft sell. And if you're doing hard sell, you want as many barriers between you and the person that you're trying to impress as you can get. And here you have this guy with the visor, plastic visor, you can't even see his face, and then the uniform, and so on and so forth. So that's
So basically, you reach what we could call not only personal, but a social value and the use of your pencils and paper. And you learn patience, I guess, from that also.
I learned patience early on. I'm pretty patient. Oddly enough, my wife doesn't think so.
Oh, I see. Well, that can happen.
Yeah.
Well, what fascinated you most about art as a college student?
Well, Newall was my main painting instructor, and a wonderful person.
Mr. Wilbur?
But then I had a guy by the name of Bill McKim, and I didn't have much to do with him, but I was in a class, and he come in with this stuff, this goop, and said, "Hey, you guys see what you can do with this."
Oh, I see.
What it was plastic resin, just sticky plastic resin. Well, that's what paint is made out of, is some kind of a sticky substance,
Right,
maybe an egg yolk even,
Sure.
and then pigment. So we played around with it and put some pigment with it, and tried something.
Just like picking up a rock that you've demonstrated here, and you
To get just dry pigment and mix with this acrylic resin is what it would be.
I see.
Just a plain resin without any color. And we did that, and it was hard to manipulate. I've got a painting that I kept from that, but it was difficult to
basically, I
manipulate.
guess you was dealing with earth colors.
We had some other colors as well too.
Right, but
cobalt blue and so forth.
You learned to make raw sienna.
Yeah, he taught it. Yeah, if you take a rock that you find in the creek and it's got more or less clay base to it,
Oh, I see.
not sandstone you don't want.
Oh, no.
But if it's got a clay base to it, all you have to do is scrape off some of the dust, and you've got probably raw sienna.
Raw sienna.
Yeah, you got that. And then if you put it on a hot plate, you got burnt sienna.
Oh, I see.
Both of them still in business, made out of the earth. And I thought that was fantastic because I just love basic stuff.
Now, where's the best sienna come from?
Well, from an Italian city called Siena.
That's called
Umber. Burnt umber is from an Italian city where they probably found the best. That's the best.
And you found that in your travels. We'll talk about later.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Okay. Well, how about black? What's your
If you take a candle or a match and you catch some smoke, then you've got what they call lamp black, which is just carbon. Just carbon. Yeah, you can get it out of the
Mixed with a
fireplace
medium.
there.
Yeah.
But back to the the material that McKim brought in. We tried it for a while, and then it just didn't. You have to thin that with acetone.
Acetone.
And acetone you do not want to inhale.
Right.
And you best just leave it for extreme serious work. So we just quit using it. And then later on, the paint people came up with acrylic paint
Yes.
that you could use. How did they do that, you might ask?
Yes. Huh?
They emulsified the molecules of plastic with molecules of water. And it's the same process, or similar process, as homogenized milk,
Oh, I see.
where you mix the fatty with the aqueous,
Yes.
and then it all is together.
Fits together.
Well, that's what they did
molecularly speaking.
with acrylic paint. They mixed the plastic with the aqueous, and you can thin it with water. It's a great material, wonderful material,
Well-
and it has all kinds of possibilities.
Oh, I see. There's your acrylic.
But I left it for quite a while. I didn't bother with it. I used it for posters and stuff, but I didn't really like it.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, they have now, which I also don't like, oil paint that you can thin with water.
Oh, yes.
They've emulsified
Oh,
oil.
not the same. I love oils.
No,
Not the same.
and I've used it, but I don't care for it.
Oh, I see.
Somehow, it's just not pure.
Uh-huh.
But this, after a while, I decided to try something with the acrylic, and I found it had all kinds of valuable assets. It's tough, holds up, and once the water is gone out of it, once it has cured,
Oh, I see.
and the water part of the emulsion is gone, it's impervious to water.
Oh, I see.
Put water on it.
And that
and-
lasts for years. They don't know the time element yet.
Yeah.
Because when it was started, that time has passed, but we still do not know.
The only risk is getting it cold.
Oh, it's
If you get
getting
it too cold, it'll crack just like any other plastic.
Oh, I see.
And so I tried all kinds of different things. This is I put some holes, dents in plaster of Paris, and I tried mounting it on.
Well,
So anyway,
I guess that's where hydrokinetics came from.
pretty much, yeah. This was,
A term that may be new to some of our viewers worldwide.
yeah, it was accidental. I had been working with the acrylics and on a plate, like a kitchen plate, a dinner plate, and to clean them, just lazy as I am, I just threw them in a bucket of water. And
So it's
and
accidental.
after a while, I saw these things floating up, and I picked up some of the film, and by golly, it was kind of interesting. Nice color variations and so
Right,
forth.
huh?
So I took some and put it on a flat surface, and then later on I tried glass, put it on glass, using glass as a mold. And lo and behold, it pulled off of the glass and made an interesting surface.
Excellent. So that's
And-
basically through the hydro, or you say water, that's where basically you found that hydrokinetics.
Yeah.
Well, being just a painter, oils and watercolors, I guess that would definitely found that interesting, like a new finding.
Yeah, it was
As a scientist almost, huh?
something to explore. And
So I guess that would be a slower process, so to make that happen in the final form, right?
yeah, it took, and I'd try it. I was primarily an oil painter and a watercolor artist. So this was something I did just because it was fun.
Oh, huh.
And I'd try this and that with it. And then after a while, I had quite a few large pieces of fun. And they finally got together enough to make a show. And so I had a show over at Sedalia a while back.
wow.
And that's what I put in the gallery
Excellent.
today.
Well, so basically, you stopped with hydrokinetics. What year did you stop that?
Last year.
Last year, 2024.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
The
at
reason-
age 88,
Huh?
at age 88, hydrokinetics have become more difficult for
Oh, yeah.
to
You're
work.
working with glass this big. I used patio doors to start with, to get something big enough.
Oh, I
Because
see.
I was shooting for the big time.
Oh, I see. Well, I understand you have some of those in your gallery.
I do.
Well, why don't we take a trip to your gallery and take
All
a look
right,
at
it's just
kind of
around
an
the
introduction to hydrokinetics with an adjacent room here on the studio.
Yep. A little
Okay.
gallery off the studio. Let's take a look in here to the gallery.
All right.
And here we are. This is my latest show was these that we have hanging up here. And the one that I think is kind of interesting just to explain to you about is this one right here. And the acrylic paint is painted on a flat piece of glass. That's how you start it. And then you add to it, and you can cut areas out of it once it's fairly thick and put other colors in. So here, this one kind of demonstrates the processes. The color is put on the glass and manipulated, all you want to, rubbed around, whatever. And then once you get it thick, you can cut out certain areas like this right here, and it comes out real clean off the glass, and then you lay in other colors. And most of these are done before I name them, because if you name them, then you're linked up to what you are going to call it. And so this one here, I had it around for quite a while, and I wasn't crazy about it. And the reason it bothered me is because it reminds me of a funeral of my grandmother. The flowers, the dark colors and so forth. And so I named that funerary. It's a funerary painting. And it's plain, and it has the look. So anyway, part of the fun is naming them. And this set here I call Gemini. And after a while we'll talk about my systems where you have a two-point system and a three-point system. This happens to be my three-point. Well, it's Gemini. Well, there's three. How would you got three paintings there for? If it's Gemini, well, Gemini is just not two. Gemini is two and the transition between the two. And so that's what I call Gemini. This is my older brother. This would be me. And that's in between. And I'm the Gemini. And this one here. And the show that I put up in Sedalia, there was a little sign on the wall that said, do not touch. And I thought, I need to put a sign up there that says, go ahead and touch. You can feel this paint, and it's just as smooth as the glass that it was put on. And I enjoy that part of it myself. This one here, you can see different tools. I had some glass, not glass, but some tin metal that I used and spray painted through that. This is all spray. This is all. None of this is cut, so as you can see. And this I call From the Sea They Came. And it looks like a sea serpent to me. And so that's what that was. And then this little fun thing here is one that I kind of enjoy. Tried different processes for cutting out. And this one also has, we were talking about spiritual aspect of art. I did a painting. Most of the time I'll leave the mind beyond, I'll draw the mind beyond the confines of the skull. And I look at the Renaissance halo as an indication that other people feel like there's something beyond the skull that is important. This one I did, and then I realized it was the Sham Shaman, and that's what its title is. It's not, but I did put a little bit of the gold color here inside the skull and outside the skull, because I don't think spirituality is confined to inside the skull. It's bigger than that. We don't know what it is, but it's bigger than that. This painting right here is one that, it's about the last painting I did, of this size.
In the kinetic.
Yeah, in the hydrokinetics.
Hydrokinetics.
And this hydrokinetics is my title. And
Yes.
I think I'm the only one doing this. And I started doing these in 1971.
This is first
So-
I've seen. I think it should be introduced.
Well,
Should-
it's hard to introduce out here in the Midwest. It honestly
I
is.
see.
You have the limitations.
Well-
the flyover country. We are the flyover people.
Yes.
And I set out to do an ugly painting.
Oh, I see.
I'm trying to do pretty stuff, nice looking stuff. I'm going to do an ugly painting. So I tried to do the combinations that shouldn't work, and there's a splash, and the thing did not even come off the glass right.
Oh, I see.
There's places where the paint is peeled up,
Uh-huh.
and it didn't come off the glass, and so. But I kind of, there's something about it I kind of like, and so what I did was go ahead and call the thing COVID-19.
COVID-19. Excellent.
And so that's it. Anyway, there's some more, but that gives you an idea about the process.